Welcome everyone. My name is Jeroen Bakker. I've been an iOS developer at Triple for 4 years. And I have a question for you. Who have started making an app for the tablet so far? And have you ever thought about making your UIs dynamic? Nice, okay. Well, today I'm gonna walk you through the split view support and the multitasking support from iPad and share my experience and some tips and tricks that I found along the way. So, just a little background. During During WWDC 19, Apple announced that before April 2020, we must have a launch storyboard, we must have an interface that supports any display size, and we must support multitasking. But if we know launch storyboard, okay, that's quite easy to do. Support any display size, they mean portrait, landscape, big iPads, small iPads. But multitasking, what do they mean by that? Well, if you take a look at multitasking, this is what Apple means with multitasking. We also have multi-screen, but it's a separate thing. Multitasking is basically the slide over support, the split view support, and the picture-in-picture. And I'm gonna dive a little bit deeper into what is what, so you know what I'm talking about. If you look at slide over, here's the quick animation of it. You drag an app, put it on top, and just release it. So it's above your app. This is what's called a slide over. I'm going to show you again. You toggle your view, you drag an app to whatever corner you want, release it, and that's your slide over app. Split view works quite differently. The gesture is the same. We open the home control, we pick the app, slide it to the right side, and then release it. But if your app supports split view, then it will automatically adjust to the initial 50% size. And I'm going to show you again. So you drag it up, take the app, drag it to the side, and then release it. This is what's called split view support. You can also make the screen a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger. And last but not least, we have picture-in-picture. That basically means during playout, you can click on a button, in this case on the home button from the iPhone or iPad, and then you will see your player in a small screen. You can make it a little bit bigger, but then you can still continue to use another app while still watching your video. So this is what picture-in-picture is. But I'm going to talk today about split view, because that's the most difficult one to support. And I'm going to walk you through how to set up split view support. So first we have a configuration, then we're going to look at our design, like, okay, what do we have to update accordingly, and then we're going to code. So if you have to look at our configuration, what we have to do to enable split view support is only these 3 settings. You have to enable portrait, enable landscape left and landscape right, and then basically your app already automatically supports split view. You can already start dragging the message app, for example, next to your app, and then you can see your app changing the size. It will probably look horrible if you didn't support any adjustments, but this is the basic configuration you need for split view. Okay, now that we have the configuration, let's look at our design. So our designer comes to us, we get a nice view. He says, okay, on landscape, I want to have 2 items on the top next to each other, and below I want to have the items in there. But on landscape, I want to have a little bit more spacing. So, okay, we're like, let's take a challenge. It's going to be easy. Let's do this. So we open up Xcode, and we're going to do some basic configurations. So we saw there's a specific maximum size of the width. We're going to do some left and right edge spacing, and some spacing in between. We have collection view, and in our setup, we're going to make our collection view, do the configurations, make our data source and delegate. And then we're going to make our layout, cell size for index path. This is the most important one. If you look back at the design, we saw the 2 top ones next to each other. So we just specify if it's our index path section 0, we want to return our collection view width minus the spacings divided by 2. So we have 2 next to each other. And else we just return the maximum collection view width and the specific height. We want to make it a little bit more dynamic, but this, for the sake of purpose, we want to have this design. So we make it like this. Then we have to update the spacing. Let's say the section size. Then we have to update our spacing. So as we saw, left and right has a little bit of spacing. So for our first section, we return a little bit offset. And for all the other cells, we return the same. Okay, so if we look at portrait, hey, we run our app. Yay, it's exactly like the design. Yeah, we did our job. We've done it. Yes. But then we rotate our app and, shit, it didn't work. But then, okay, maybe Apple did something wrong. Like, we don't trust the simulator. So you run it again, and hey, everything works fine. But then we rotate back to the portrait, and like, shit, wrong again. So our designer comes madly to our room, and we're like, sorry, you trusted me, I failed you. Like, this is horrible. But now, okay, we have to support orientation. How can we do that? Well, if we look at the documentation from Apple, we'll see we have this specific API. View will transition to size. And if we look at the description, it will basically say, it will notify the container that the size of its view is about to change. So basically when you're rotating, the view size is going to change, so you will get notified, oh, hey, we're rotating. Now we know how to rotate. We also have to recalculate our collection view cell sizes because, yeah, our rotation is passed. Like, it's great that we know when it's going to happen, but we have to do something about it. For that, we're going to look at documentation of collection view, and we find this nice little function, invalidate layout. What this function does is it will just trigger the layout to say, hey, update my layout. So it will call all your delegates again. Not the data source, but only your delegates. So you don't have to reload data, your collection view, that's quite expensive, only your layout. So let's update our code. We're going to implement the view will transition to size and just call invalidate layout. So now, when we run the app, landscape will look like this, and we rotate it to portrait, and it will look like this. So now we basically have the support for landscape and portrait for this specific view. But you're guessing, what about split view? Well, split view has 5 configurations. We have a 2/3 of your screen, 1/3 of your screen, or 50% of your screen. And if you turn it to portrait, you will get 2/3 of your screen or 1/3 of your screen. Portrait does not support 50% of your screen. Okay, now that we know that, let's try to run the app, see what happens. So we run our app in portrait, we drag a view to the right side, we drop it, and we can basically see, well, we already have some sort of support. It doesn't look really great, but it's already automatically adjusting. Well, why? Because the view will transition function that we just implemented will also trigger whenever your screen size changes from the split view. So that's really helpful. So we look at our landscape, and we're like, it looks fine, except the 1/3 is a little bit too tight to each other, so we want to update it, but how do we do that? So, how should we determine our current size? Well, we can do pixel counting, but as you know, that's going to be horrible and not like future-proof. It's quite specific, so it's really helpful, but you don't know which sizes are going to be next on the next iPad or next screens. So let's look at the size classes. And what do I mean with size classes? I mean the regular and compact size classes. Regular denotes expansive space, so that means like an iPad on landscape or an iPad on portrait. And compact is the constrained space. And for an iPhone, for example, it's the width that's really small, that's compact. But if you run an iPad, both sizes are regular. So how does this really work in split view? Well, here's an overview. When it's in 50%, it's still regular on an iPad Pro. On a smaller iPod, it's going to be regular compact. On 1/3 of your screen, it's going to be compact regular, so compact width, regular height. And on 2/3, it's going to be regular. So, but as you can see, the first one and the last one are exactly the same with the size classes. So we don't have really a good way to know the difference between those two. So I would suggest to write a little bit of code, make an enum so you can support more constraints. For example, like this. Here we have a size category enum with extra small, medium, and large. And for every view, we just get this getter. And if our view is really small, like the 1/3 or like an iPhone SE, we just return, okay, it's super small. But if we're bigger, like from an iPad Pro, then, well, okay, just return large. And everything in between, we can use the TraitCollection from Apple. So here we basically added the pixel counting together with the TraitCollection to get the maximized result from our split view. Okay, now that we have done this, let's update our app. So we go back to Xcode. It's going to be a little bit harder than before. So we're going to update our code, but first we want to specify how many items we want to return in our collection view. So we'll update our number of items in section. And depending on which size we are, okay, we'll say for extra small and small, so basically from 1/3 of your screen or an iPhone, we just return 1. For everything else, we just return all the items. And for an iPad or large iPads, we want to have 2 items next to each other and then return all the items in between. And last but not least, because we're updating our data source, now we have to call reload data because we're not only updating our layout, we're also updating our data source. You might ask, wait, reloading? Yes, reloading. It can be really costly, but we're updating our data source, but try to avoid this as much as possible. Like if you're rotating your app, you don't really have to reload your data, so you might want to add some logic in there, unless you're already at 50% and then you're rotating, because then you're going to be in compact regular screen. So try to really define when you want to reload your data, so you don't use expensive calculations. But let's update our code. So in our view will transition, we're going to specify our previous size category and our current one. And we're going to compare them. And whenever we're going from extra small or small to medium or large, so from small to large, we want to reload our data. Or if we're going from medium back to small, or from medium to extra small. There are 4 combinations. And for everything else, we only want to invalidate our layout. So we can just don't necessarily use a lot of memory in our code. It's a lot more code, but it's much more efficient so you don't costly reload your data for the users. Let's look at the result. So if we're gonna run this, we'll see, okay, this is working fine. I'm gonna use the split view support. I'm dragging it up, setting to the side. Okay, so it's 50%, dragging it back to the 1/3. Oh shit, it looks horrible. Okay, back. Okay, now it works fine again. Back to 1, and wait, now it's correct. What's happening? Now it's working again. I'm dragging it to 2/3, back to 1/3. It's still working. Back to the middle, back to the first. Okay. But as you can see, it's really like confusing. And I was like almost ready to flip my tail around because, why? But something is broken. But what is broken? I'm wondering, can anyone tell what's wrong with this code? Good one. But the problem is, it says view will transition to size, so it's not ready yet. So we're getting our size category from our current view, but that size is not updated yet. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't. So like when we're debugging, we'll notice that view will transition will cover every screen change, but it will say WillLayout, so it's not ready yet. So you have to prepare for that. It will get called for your active view, but for example, if you have a tab bar and you're currently on tab number 3, you're moving your split view support to 50%, go back to screen number 1, you don't get a callback, and that view is still 100% width. So that's really horrible. So keep in mind, if you use this function, it will only be called for your currently active view. So if you have a push the view controller, present the view controller, you're just in that view dismissing it. The one on below doesn't get any callbacks that your view size has changed. So, but what can we do about this? Well, luckily, Apple also introduced TraitCollection did change. So it's called whenever your regular compact combinations is changing. So let's update our code. So we're gonna update Xcode. This one's a little bit more trickier than before. And we're gonna update our code. See if we can use the same function as we had before, but now just copy paste it in TraitCollection did change. Let's see what happens. So we run our app. Okay, this is working so far. Let's drag our app. Put a split view 50%. That's nice. 2 at the round. Oh, nice. 1. It's working as standard. Okay, we have 2 at the side. Going back. What? Oh, okay. It's working and going to portrait. And yeah, it's not even updating. It's horrible. Like I was already ready to flip my table once over again. Like, why Apple? You have view with transition, not perfectly. You have TraitCollection, it's not perfectly or for every use case. What is happening? But as we saw before, if you're going from 50% back to two-thirds of your screen, the TraitCollection is still the same, so nothing changed. So if you're rotating your app, if the TraitCollection is still regular, you don't get the callback, so you don't know if your view changed. And after some debugging, we've noticed that the TraitCollection don't cover every screen change, because as we saw, sometimes you don't get the callback. But it will get called for all your active views and inactive views. So if you have a view controller that's presented and you're updating your layout, then navigating back, the presented view controller will also get the notification that, hey, your screen size changed, let's update our UI. So this is a little bit better than before. But it's still not what we want. So let's start at another example that I've tried using is view WillLayout subviews. This will be called to the view controller whenever its child views will be updated. Note it's child views. So this current view is already ready, but its child views are not. So let's try to use this code. Let's open up Xcode. It's going to be the hardest one yet, because we almost given up on Apple. So okay, let's move our code to the super view WillLayout subviews. It's basically the same, we're still just only reloading whenever our size category changes. So we run our app. Okay, let's look at the results. So this is our landscape view, we're dragging it up. Come on, dragging it up, put it to the side. Okay, we have 2 at the bottom, that's nice. Now we have 1. It's working perfectly so far. Going back to 2/3, going good. Back to 1, yeah, it's going great. Hey, portrait seems to work. Hey, it's still working. Back to landscape. This made me quite feel happy. I was like, yes, I've done it. It made me feel really good. But as you will notice, view WillLayout subviews will also get called whenever you call layout if needed, or you want to update your UI. So let's improve our code so that we don't update our collection view when it's not needed. And to do that, we can easily just save the current size we had, compare them to the new size, and if it's actually changed, then we're going to update our layout. Because if the size is still the same, we don't have to update our collection view, we don't have to update our subviews for this specific use case. So we just call let super do its work, and we're done. So to recap, a view transition will cover every rotation and screen size changes, but only for your active views. TraitCollection won't cover every view size adjustments, but it will get called on its lower views, the non-active views. And view WillLayout subviews, after a lot of debugging and also layout subviews, they will get called every time, every screen. So whenever you updated your view on a parent or a child view, navigating back, layout subviews will always get called. This is quite handy because then you can also put this enum inside your collection view. For example, if you want to adjust your stack view to be vertical on small and horizontal on large or medium. So you can put that code in layout subviews, switch around, and then you already have really adaptive layout. So my conclusion, split view is strongly encouraged. It's not required by Apple. They changed their, like they announced in January that it's not required anymore. I think a lot of people were complaining about, but my app's not ready for this. And so if you want to implement it, it's strongly encouraged but not required. Updating UI can be really challenging, as we saw. Like we have a lot of APIs from Apple, but not all of them do what we think it should do. I would recommend to use layout subviews, so you will cover every screen size possibility, but keep in mind that you don't reload too often, because you don't want to overload your CPU or your GPU. So only do it when needed. Thank you. Any questions?
Did you take out the
Yeah, I removed those code and only used the view WillLayout subviews. And with that, I can update my entire app with only that part. I made a base view controller, moved that to a separate function called view did change size. So according to Apple, and then whenever I'm on a view that needs to update its size, I will just implement that function. Yeah?
Question, so you're using frame all the time for your size measurement. Is that just for the demo, or I would use bounds because it's not affected by transforms?
Yeah, you can use bounds as well. I just use frame for the example project quickly. Yeah. But bounds is what you're saying is indeed quite right. It also covers the transform, yeah, because else your transform is going to look horrible as well if you only use frame. A good point. Yes?
I have two questions. One, how long did it take you to figure all this out? Like a week, 2 weeks?
This was basically it. The question is how long it took to figure this out. It was quite like 1 or 2 days. Like I started just implementing all those functions from the view controller and just debugging, printing everything, and then rotating everything around, picking a bigger iPad, do split view this, split view that. Like it took quite a while, but it was doable within 2 days. But it was quite challenging. You're like your head is struggling, your collection view didn't update. There was also a problem that I did a lot of pre-calculations for my collection view, but like if you do your pre-calculations in the view WillLayout subviews, you'll also get the wrong size. So you have to, my solution would be start calculating when it's needed. So when your delegate is asking for it, then the collection view is in its correct size, and then you can pass the collection view as a size calculation. So you can pre-calculate it, but only when it's needed, so you have the correct timing. And your second question?
I was just going to ask, like, what was your troubleshooting process, but you basically answered it.
Yeah, cool. Any more questions? No? Well, thank you.